Good morning, everyone. My name is Maryam Saleh, and I lead the Sustainability and New Energies team here at GACN. Over the next few minutes, I'll be walking us through what we call a sustainability moment, a short but impactful look at how we're driving local impact through clean energy and strategic gas utilization. Sustainability is not a distant concept. In Nigeria, it's a necessity, with over 86 million Nigerians lacking access to clean cooking and 45% of urban waste improperly disposed. Local solutions are more urgent than ever. At GACN, our mandate goes beyond just gas aggregation. We are focused on bridging energy gaps, enabling businesses, and building a more resilient economy, all by prioritizing sustainability where it matters the most in our communities. There are 4 key ways we're seeing local sustainability drive real change. Clean energy uptake. By encouraging the use of LPG and other cleaner fuels, we reduce environmental impacts and improve health outcomes, especially for women and children exposed to indoor pollution. Supporting local innovators, we believe in the power of collaboration, whether it's a small clean cooking business or a mini recycling plant. Grassroots solutions are critical, and we continue to partner and facilitate their growth. Practical sustainability. Sustainability should be practical, not complicated. We promote simple, replicable solutions that deliver real benefits like cost savings and cleaner air and healthier homes. Community benefits. Our work also unlocks wider community benefits, from job creation to skill development. When people see the value, they engage, and sustainability becomes a shared responsibility. The ripple effect of small decisions is powerful. One LPG cylinder can reduce household air pollution up to 90%. A single recycling hub can employ over 20 youths. Clean energy projects in rural areas free up time for girls to attend school. These aren't just numbers, they represent lives that have been transformed. At GACN, we are proud to be part of this ripple effect. In every engagement, in every agreement, every community interaction, we have a chance to move Nigeria to a more sustainable future. Because sustainability isn't just about the environment, it's about the people. And it's about ensuring that our energy decisions today make life better tomorrow. Thank you for your
Okay, good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are joining us from today on this webinar that is put together by the Gas Aggregator Company of Nigeria Ltd by Guarantee in collaboration with NNPC Limited, CarbonAi, GIZ, and the European Union. We want to say a big thank you for joining us this afternoon. And today we will be going into the business of the afternoon. Here we'll be looking at carbon markets and climate finance for Nigeria's low carbon goals. We'll also be looking at showcasing high integrity methane abatement, promote collaboration between government and private sector and development partners, discuss enablers such as policies, market structure, and financing mechanisms. Of course, you have a seasoned panel of experts that would take a panel discussion. But before we get there, we'll listen to the managing director of GACN. We'll also listen to the ED of New Energies at NNPC Limited, and then we'll take a presentation before we get the panel ready to go. We'll look at key takeaways from this webinar and take a closing remarks thereafter. Before we proceed, my name is Richmond Osuji, and I am dialing in from the beautiful city of Lagos. How I like to open my webinars? Tell me where you are dialing in from. Just find that chat box and hit the location you are dialing in from. We want to see how many people have joined us from around the globe today before we get the panelists to start having the conversations we are all here for. Okay, Emmanuel, are they able to leave a chart of location? If they're not, I just carry on.
Oh, yes.
Advice.
Very well. I can see
I'm not
Lagos.
able to access the chat from my end anyway. I don't know why, but
So
wherever you are
I'll
dialing
put
in
the
from.
point. So we have Lagos, we have
Okay.
Benin, you have Uyo, amazing. You have Abuja, you
Lagos,
have
Benin, Uyo.
a lot of Abuja,
Welcome.
lots of Lagos, lots of Uyo. Yes.
Brilliant stuff. So welcome from across the divide of Nigeria, and I'm guessing beyond Nigeria as well. Wherever
Beginning
you've
and
dialed
all.
in from, you are welcome. All right, Emmanuel, thank you very much. Let me now fire on all cylinders with the agenda for the afternoon. It is intended to be a brief webinar. We intend to achieve everything between now and the next 1 hour and 1 hour 30 minutes plus. Give us your time. Thank you for joining us. Onwards to the agenda, I will switch my gears to now, and I would continue with remarks from the managing director of the Gas Aggregator Company of Nigeria. The video has told you what GACN is doing in terms of sustainability, how they are not only looking at gas, but looking at an environment that gas can power, even with more people living a healthier life. Let's now pass it on to Mr. Chijioke Uzoho, Managing Director, GACN. MD, is over to you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Richmond. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, MD. Please go ahead.
Okay. Just to key into your beginning phrase, I'm dialing in from London. So well done and thank you. Just to start will be to say good afternoon, distinguished colleagues, partners, and stakeholders. On behalf of the Gas Aggregator Company Nigeria Ltd by Guarantee, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to today's webinar, themed from emission to innovation, unlocking Nigeria's low carbon potential. This conversation is timely. The global energy landscape is undergoing a profound transformation as we all strive to balance industrial growth with the urgent imperative of a low carbon future. For Nigeria, we must seize the opportunity it presents in turning our abundant natural gas and energy resources into a catalyst for reducing emissions, fostering innovation, and accelerating inclusive economic development. At GACN, we see natural gas not only as a transformational fuel, but as a strategic enabler for decarbonization. By leveraging gas in power, in industry, transportation, and clean cooking, and integrating renewable energy solutions, we can chart a pragmatic pathway towards achieving Nigeria's energy security, inclusive economic growth, and a low carbon future. We are privileged to have with us leading voices from government, industry, development partners. Your insights will help shape practical solutions for Nigeria's energy transition. Our focus today is to highlight opportunities in carbon market and climate financing, strengthening collaboration across government, private sector, and partners, discuss the policy and financial structure that enables progress, showcase innovations that can turn today's challenge into tomorrow's opportunity. I encourage us all to engage openly, share knowledge, and challenge one another. Let's live here with clear, actionable steps, as the future of Nigeria's energy sector will be defined by how creatively and inclusively we innovate for the benefit of all. I wish us all a fruitful deliberation, and thank you for being part of this important journey. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chijioke Uzoho, the Managing Director of GACN, opening this webinar for us. We're going to be switching gears from him to a special keynote address from a critical stakeholder in Nigeria's oil and gas industry, that is the NNPC Limited, whose executive director in charge of new energy will be making these remarks on behalf of the company. Please, let's yield the virtual platform to Daniel Obiano. Daniel, good afternoon.
Hi, Godfrey. Confirm you can hear me.
Hearing you is loud and very clear. Seeing you
Fantastic.
is excellent.
Fantastic. I'm so privileged to be here, and I just want to extend my congratulations and thanks to GACN, because I think this is a timely discussion, and also with the surgical nature in which they have organized this is also commendable. So big congratulations to the team. Do we put up the presentation first? fantastic. Is that it? Okay. So again, on behalf of the NNPC and especially my Executive Vice President, Laleko Gunle, happy to be here. And let's just try and provoke ourselves like the MD said, and leave with something that we can act on so that it's not just an echo chamber that we're having here. So go to the next slide and we start. So from emissions to innovation, unlocking Nigeria's low carbon potential. Go to the next slide, please. Okay, our reality. There are going to be just some provocative thoughts here. So our reality is this: 7 to 8 BCM, depending on where you're looking at, and NUPRC has put out that data, and 2.5 plus billion estimated annual revenue loss. Okay, so I call this a paradox, and in calling it a paradox, I say it can represent a disaster. You can cry about it, or like I always tell myself and I tell people, I say, in every disaster or problem lies an opportunity. So it's the way we take it that is important. I think we should see the problem as an opportunity to actually deliver this value that we are losing every day. In terms of emissions globally, let's put it in context. Africa, the whole of Africa, is 3 to 4%. So in terms of our contribution to global GAG, we're not yet there. But again, a region like Africa, that we should be actually using this money for other things, like I think Maryam talked about health benefits and youth employment. What are we doing about it? So this is the reality we live in. Next slide. The economic context. Everything is about economics. So it's not just the failure to act. It's not about talking. It's about actually turning this supposedly failure into a national wealth. Okay, so we have that opportunity in this meeting because, again, like the facilitator has said, people are logged on from all around the world, and it's to recover the lost revenue, drive industrialization, domestic energy security, and then also unlocking a new sector of the economy, carbon economy. Let's go to the next slide. Number one, you hear a lot about the green future. But interestingly is that when I looked at some data from IEA 2050 projection, the future is brown, blue, and green. So if there's anything I'm saying we should change our minds about today is to see that the energy transition is a rainbow transition, okay? There will be gas by 2050. Even some data I looked at by 100 years from now, there will still be gas. So rather than some of the narratives about gas being a bridge, let's look at gas as a destination. And it's moving from the old way of thinking to this new perspective where gas is a strategic national asset and the destination fuel of choice. Okay? Every molecule must have a purpose. Every molecule, whether we are powering our homes, industries, we're exporting it like in LNG, or beginning to develop, again, I think MD is also passionate about this, gas-based industries. Again, those are opportunities for us to engage with. So the future is brown, blue, green. It's a rainbow. Next message. 2, how do we unlock that value? I think this for me, and I think I was discussing with Maryam yesterday, this for me is key. We begin to unlock this by creating a national trusted carbon registry. It's overdue. This unlocks Article 6 of the UNFCCC, was it Glasgow? This unlocks it. And if there's any takeaway for all of us, I think is how do we achieve this in the near future? And what does it mean to have a trusted carbon registry? It's all about showing the transparency, a rigor or assurance in the monitoring, in the reporting, in the verification. The standards are set, and all this will build the trust that as we go into this rainbow future, adding the green to it, that you can now generate credits from the activities that we are going to be doing in future. Next. Thirdly, not only are we reducing flares, let's eliminate flares. This is possible. Let's eliminate the flares. But how are we going to do that? Again, it's by moving the needle on the green part of the pie, okay? And we know today the future is about solar, okay? The future is about solar. This is the displacement of diesel, is the displacement of gas that is being flared. This is the future. And we all need to get behind this revolution where we're increasing that pie to include solar. Next, please. And we cannot say everything without talking about NNPC. We are Nigeria. We are the Nigerian oil company. And one of our key talk is about the new energy. I am the executive director of the New Energy Group, and we are here. Core mission, we want to transform Nigeria into a low carbon economy, and we are ready for business. Number one, we're aligned. NNPC is aligned. We have our eyes on that pie. Number two, we have the competitive advantage. Okay, we're an energy company, and this is part of the new energy company, the energy for tomorrow. And our whole core action is around accelerating solar initiatives to eliminate expensive, much more dirty fuel like diesels. And one of the key anchor of our project, our approach to this is a new project we've just launched. It's called Project Sunshine. And it's a 2,500 megawatt aspiration by 2030. But also in the portfolio is also the biofuels again. So all green approach to the future. We're not just responding to this emergency, we are leading the charge. So again, just use the opportunity to market us, partner with us, come talk to us. Let's go on this journey together. Next slide. Call to action. Let's go beyond talking. Let's lead the charge. The time for this action was yesterday. The next best time is now. We can transform Nigeria energy landscape and therefore transforming Africa into a low carbon economy. I keep saying this, that the question is no longer if. It's will you lead, or are you going to sit down there and watch? Embrace this solar as a strategic priority. Let's build this assured carbon registry that will drive carbon credit generation. And an old African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. Let us go together into this low carbon future. I'm going to pause there. Over to you, Godfrey.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Daniel. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Awesome stuff. Thank you. Thank you. I see the virtual applause coming for you, and rightly so. You set the tone for what it is we should be doing as a country, where we should be going, and you spoke around having a world-class carbon register here in Nigeria. I'm sure the next speakers to the panel will be helping us take a deeper dive into some of these issues that you have raised. That's why we'll have a panel, and that's why we'll have experts from CarbonAi to also take center stage after you. So thank you, thank you, thank you very much. If you've just joined us, we've just listened to the Executive Director of New Energies for NNPC Limited, speaking there on behalf of EVP, Gas Power New Energies, Daniel Obeyan. Thank you so much. We're going to move on from Daniel now. And I like the fact, Daniel, that you said we shouldn't be talking about just a single transition. It's the rainbow transition. I kind of like that one. So if you hear me use that tomorrow, know that I took a page off your book, Daniel. I like that. I like that. It should be truly a rainbow transition. We should have every energy. I keep saying it. I've been talking about that. The conversation should move from transition to mix, right? Move on from Daniel now to our next expert who is ready to address us this afternoon. As I said at the beginning, this is in collaboration with CarbonAi, GACN, and many other partners. And from CarbonAi, we'll be taking our next presentation, who will be looking at enabling high integrity methane reduction through carbon finance. And the Director Corporate Development for CarbonAi is here to talk to us, Stephen Entwisle. Stephen, good afternoon. Confirm you can hear me.
Good afternoon, Richmond. Thank you very much. Can I confirm also that you can hear me?
Loud and clear, Stephen, and can see you as well.
Excellent.
Please take it away.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you to the good folks at GACN for putting on this event. It's a really important and timely discussion, and CarbonAi is very privileged to have the opportunity to participate in it. Next slide, please. So CarbonAi, for those who don't know us, is a world-leading greenhouse gas services company based in Calgary, Canada, with representative offices in London, Dubai, and Lagos. Our company has two primary streams of business. On the one hand, we provide project finance for large-scale greenhouse gas reduction projects in oil and gas operations. In those instances, we provide finance, EPC, and operation for a period of time for projects that meet certain eligibility requirements. We will operate the facility until certain hurdles are reached, at which point in time we transfer ownership of the facility to our partner. The second stream of our business, which we're going to focus on a little bit more today, is that we have developed a comprehensive suite of software tools to provide very high integrity data to bring trust, transparency, and integrity to greenhouse gas reduction quantification so that we can generate very high quality greenhouse gas outcomes such as carbon credits. Next slide, please. We have extensive experience in carbon markets. Our leadership team has over 45 years combined experience, particularly in compliance markets in North America and Europe. We also have extensive experience in oil and gas project management and EPC, and that is particularly for projects in Africa and the Middle East. And finally, we have over 20 years of experience in developing and commercializing software solutions. Our software platform, which I'll explain to you in the next few slides, has been used to quantify over 3.5 million tons of carbon credits, primarily in compliance markets, and supporting over 15 million tons of greenhouse gas reductions. Next slide, please. So we have the privilege of having some fantastic relationships in Nigeria. Nigeria is a critical strategic jurisdiction for us in a number of ways. As Executive Director Ogbemudia pointed out, there is significant flare activity in Nigeria. And so we have a number of flare conservation projects that we are in the process of developing. Those are at various stages. We also have a legal entity, CarbonAi Nigeria. We've been a participant in the Nigerian gas flare conservation project. And we also have a number of very strong relationships in our non-oil and gas projects. That includes an MOU with the Rural Electrification Agency of Nigeria, in which we will take a portion of our proceeds from our flare conservation projects and finance local solar community initiatives. Also, very importantly to us, we are the digital measurement, reporting, and verification provider to the most ambitious clean cook stove program in Africa, and that is with Green Plinth Africa. And so we are very privileged to have the opportunity to support Green Plinth Africa in the distribution of free clean cook stoves to households throughout Nigeria. We've also provided advisory to the Nigerian Council on Climate Change, particularly related to their carbon market framework, and we have ongoing discussions with them at the same time regarding carbon markets and carbon market opportunities. So as I mentioned, we have a comprehensive suite of software tools. The focus of our software tools is, as Executive Director Ogbemudia mentioned, to bring transparency, rigor, and trust to the quantification and certification of greenhouse gas emission reductions. So our software suite operates really at 3 different levels. It starts at the device level with Field, which is our smartphone app. And what Field allows us to do is to use geolocation, timestamping, and user ID to gather data from greenhouse gas reduction devices, such as pneumatic devices, that are implemented in the field, often in remote or offline areas. The app allows us to gather data to demonstrate where, when, and by whom a particular greenhouse gas reduction task has been completed. And that data is able to be gathered in offline environments, which is where oil and gas operations often exist. And when the field technician returns to an area where there is cell or internet coverage, the data automatically uploads to Proof, which is our digital measurement, reporting, and verification platform. This automatic uploading is a really important concept. What we want to do is, from the outset of the project, for all activities involved in a greenhouse gas reduction project, is that we want to digitize and automate the processing of any and all data. What this is intended to do is twofold. We want to create a transparent, immutable, and traceable evidentiary chain of data from the certification of a greenhouse gas outcomes, such as a carbon credit, all the way back to the originating greenhouse gas reduction device. What this does is creates a really strong demonstration that the greenhouse gas reduction being claimed or represented by an emission reduction credit is real, it's verifiable, and it's quantifiable. So once the data is uploaded onto Proof, we are able on our Proof platform to upload any approved quantification methodology from a carbon market registry. We then capture the data and run the data through that calculation methodology to calculate the greenhouse gas reductions. That's one aspect of the DMRV platform. The other aspect that's really important in terms of supporting that transparency and traceability is that any and all project data is stored in an immutable and transparent fashion on the platform, so that any interested third party, such as validators, verifiers, investors, and buyers, who are approved to access the data can go in and trace the data that is backing the emission reduction credit, so that at any point in time, any interested third party can go in and see exactly how a carbon credit is calculated and generated. In addition to that, Proof allows us to store an inventory of all of the devices involved in a project, as well as the life cycle history of those devices. So all the tasks that are involved with each and every one of those devices, such as deployment or installation, inspections, repairs, and so on. In addition to Proof, which is really the heart of the DMRV process for us, we have View, which is a configurable dashboard that allows project investors, project developers, regulators, and national entities to view and monitor in real time any projects that are operating within their portfolio. View allows us to configure any project data according to the requirements of the user. So for instance, in the case of a project developer or a regulator, that can be viewing by different project types, different jurisdictions, different registries, different investors, different off-takers, and so on. Importantly for us, as Executive Director Ogbemudia said, it's really important to establish strong, rigorous market frameworks. So we see a very strong opportunity for national entities such as the Nigerian Climate Change Council to deploy View as a means of monitoring projects for which letters of authorization under Article 6 have been granted, so that they can ensure that project developers operating within the country, such as Nigeria, are meeting their commitments and obligations to the host country. This also allows the host country to ensure that if they are having any benefits to the local economy, such as holdbacks on a percentage of carbon credits, they can monitor the outcomes of the projects to ensure that those benefits are being realized. Next slide, please. We have a number of use cases, both within oil and gas and outside of oil and gas. The primary of those for us, particularly in Nigeria, is flare gas conservation. So we are able to use our Proof platform to ingest flare conservation data directly from the metering on site and run that through the quantification methodologies to calculate the GHG reductions and monitor them in real time. So another aspect of our Proof platform is that it does allow for real-time monitoring that allows for alerts if there is a disruption to the data feed or if there appears to be an operational issue. We can then alert the project owner to those issues, and they can address those issues right away. So that does a couple of things. It reduces opportunities for lost productivity, but it also ensures that the carbon credit value will be maximized, that there won't be a significant loss in the carbon credit value. We also work with a group in the Western US to quantify methane reductions from well abandonment projects or end of life rehabilitation of wells in oil and gas projects in the Western states. We also have a methane intensity certification program that allows us to certify the GHG or methane intensity of a particular barrel of oil. This is really, really important for countries that export either LNG or oil into markets in which there are requirements for low greenhouse gas certification. This is particularly relevant at the moment as the EU methane regulations come on board. So with those regulations, as of 2028, it will be necessary for producers importing into the EU to be able to demonstrate what the GHG intensity of their product is. Our program can support that. Next slide, please. Other use cases for CarbonAi software suite include leak detection and repair and pneumatic device replacement. I referred earlier to the software platform and the number of tons that have been quantified on that platform. Our leadership team established and implemented the largest methane reduction program in North America. It was an award-winning program that involved the replacement of high bleed pneumatic devices with low bleed pneumatic devices. That involved over 12,500 devices. And the challenge with that program was that those devices, in addition to being a high-end number, each of which emitting a small volume of greenhouse gas reduction of methane, was that all of those devices were offline. We needed to find a way to manage the data in such a way as to support and demonstrate the greenhouse gas reduction claims. And so that was where we developed the field tool that I mentioned, our smartphone app that allows field technicians or allowed field technicians to go out to the field, demonstrate that the device was still in place and still operational, demonstrate that the required maintenance was taking place, and to upload that data automatically onto our platform so that we could meet the requirements of the greenhouse gas methodology. We're also in the process of developing a surface casing vent flow program in the compliance market in Alberta. This is a first of a kind program that will involve addressing vent flow leaks, and is modeled very much on the pneumatic device program that we put in place in the late 2010s. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we have a number of technology use cases that are outside of oil and gas operations. One of the key aspects of our platform is that at the core of it, it is about quantifying greenhouse gas reductions and processing greenhouse gas reductions to generate outcome. We're project agnostic, and we're also outcome agnostic. So what that means is that for projects that have the right type of data, we can connect with those automatically through methods such as IoT or flow meters, things, API feeds, things like that. Or we can use our field tools to go out and gather data manually. But the point is we can operate with any number of project types, and we can also process any number of GHG outcomes. So our primary focus is on carbon credits, but we can do things like renewable energy credits, methane certification, and ESG reporting, things like that. Amongst our technology use cases, I referred earlier to our Clean Cook Stove program. We're very, very excited about the Clean Cook Stoves program. It's really important for those projects because they're going to the poorest of the poor. Those stoves are often financed by carbon finance, by the sale of carbon credits generated by those projects. It's really important for the to mitigate risk in terms of investors and buyers, that project developers be able to clearly demonstrate that any greenhouse gas reductions are real and verifiable. Our software suite helps to do that by establishing a really strong, immutable, transparent, unbroken chain of data from the source cook stove all the way to the issuance of the carbon credit. We also apply our software suite to the quantification of methane reductions from landfill gas capture projects. And we do a lot of work with distributed energy sources such as distributed solar, run-of-river hydro, and also larger scale solar such as industrial and commercial implementations. Next slide, please. So why is all this so important? We've talked now, Executive Director Ogbemudia talked about the importance of being able to finance flare conservation projects, and that can be a real a real challenge. Access to capital to finance projects can be a real challenge for companies in Nigeria for a number of different reasons. One of the reasons that data platforms such as CarbonAi are so important is because they address the issues around transparency, rigorous MRV, and trust. So advancing, as Executive Director Obenu said, advanced monitoring and verification, really to address issues around trust with carbon credits and to ensure that the carbon credits that are being generated are of the highest value and are backed by very high integrity data. So we know that oil and gas is very critical for Nigeria's prosperity. It's the leading sector, leading contributor to Nigeria's economy. But in order to continue to be viable for accessing markets, it will be necessary for Nigeria's oil and gas sector to decarbonize successfully. So that requires capital. And oftentimes the indigenous oil and gas companies in Nigeria don't have that excess capital to invest in flare conservation projects. They may turn to Western banks, but oftentimes Western banks are under pressure from stakeholders to avoid investment in oil and gas, or the banks themselves have net zero portfolio commitments. So it's really important in order to attract that finance that oil and gas companies in Nigeria are able to decarbonize and are able to demonstrate that they are making measurable progress in terms of that decarbonization, in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions related to their operations. Doing so and being able to demonstrate success in those ways has a number of really strong benefits, particularly in terms of access to capital. And it's not just accessing capital, but it's getting preferential interest rates on that capital, preferential terms for companies such as Standard Chartered that have net zero targets for their portfolio. They're looking for companies to invest in that are able to decarbonize and able to demonstrate that decarbonization. I also mentioned the access to markets, but in addition to those things, being able to demonstrate very clearly successful decarbonization programs demonstrates that the company operates to the highest principles of best practices and standards. Being able to show and demonstrate strong methane reduction is a way of demonstrating highest standards of the highest operational standards within the company. And that will not only attract capital, but it will attract strong people to work there as well. So oil and gas also, as Executive Director Obenu said, it's an important decarbonization, particularly in terms of flare gas capture and usage, is an important way to turn what has previously been seen as a waste commodity into a commodity with strong commercial value. It's also important from the standpoint of the developmental benefits that gas can bring. So as Executive Director Obenu said, looking at capturing LPG for clean cook stoves, for instance, and all the benefits those derive, capturing natural gas for electrification, which is really critical for economic and social development. Finally, by capturing flares and other sources of methane and generating carbon credits, companies have the opportunity to develop important new revenue streams. So whereas decarbonization in oil and gas can appear to be daunting, it's actually a really important lever when it comes to meeting global greenhouse gas reduction targets. And the reason for this is that there is a significant portion of oil and gas of methane emissions in oil and gas operations, but we have the technologies at hand to address those. Methane reductions in oil and gas are really considered the low-hanging fruit when it comes to generating greenhouse gas reductions. And doing so at this stage of the game for over the next 5 to 10 years, eliminating flares, eliminating leaks, replacing venting leaky devices, allows us to make meaningful reductions in greenhouse gas emissions while generating economic benefit and investing some of that benefit in the development and deployment of the next generation of renewable technologies. So investing in the decarbonization of oil and gas today actually allows us to invest in the energy transition that will position us for a low carbon economy in the future. Next slide, please. So Executive Director Obenu did a great job of laying out the importance of transparency and rigor in measurement, reporting, and verification. It's really fundamental to establishing trust and clearly demonstrating that any claimed emission reduction is real, has taken place. And the way to do this is through high quality data. It's really essential to, from the outset of a project, to put sufficient data monitoring and data management practices in place to demonstrate that those reductions are real. Carbon credits have, over the last couple of years, particularly in voluntary markets, been subject to a lot of scrutiny around the ways in which the carbon credits are quantified. And questions have been raised about whether a carbon credit that's raised in the voluntary market is real and represents a real reduction. This has created a lot of concern and created the perception of risk amongst both investors into projects and buyers of carbon credits. And the challenge with this is that carbon markets are often the best, most effective way to finance the deployment of early stage technologies that will be fundamental to the energy transition. So when those questions are raised, that investment diminishes, and the ability to prove out early stage technologies, it becomes more limited. And that's a really important process for us to maintain in order to meet our greenhouse gas reduction targets. So it's critical that carbon credits are able to demonstrate that they are high quality and that they actually represent real reductions. This having strong data to back emission reductions creates stronger demand, and it also creates much higher value for carbon credits. We're seeing in the voluntary market that carbon mitigation projects that have digital measurement, reporting, and verification solutions in place, in the case of cook stoves, for instance, are often getting up to an additional $5 to $10 per ton of CO2. So that is an extremely good return on investment. The other important aspect around digitization is that having transparent, traceable, and immutable data allows for the scrutiny of any claimed carbon credit. It allows the carbon credit to withstand that scrutiny because the data that has been used to generate the carbon credit is all available for any third party to audit at any point in time. So in order to do this, the data has to have several characteristics. It needs to be immutable, so that means it can't be changed. That means that the ability of any individual to manipulate data is eliminated. It also needs to be transparent. Throughout the course of a project life cycle, it's really important to have transparent data to demonstrate the performance. And finally, it needs to be traceable. Right from the point of certification of the carbon credit or the generation of the carbon credit, all the way back to the originating greenhouse gas reduction device. Next slide, please. So the digitization is not just important because of the integrity and trust that strong data brings. It's also becoming important because digital markets, digital carbon markets are really starting to emerge. And so what we're seeing is an integrated ecosystem of carbon market players who are adopting digital technologies. The reason this is really interesting is for a number of reasons. First of all, digital tools can be deployed much more quickly than analog infrastructure. They are also much more efficient than conventional carbon market processes. So things such as the development of project documentation, quantification of reductions, and verification of reductions, and the issuance of carbon credits. When those processes are digitized, we see huge gains in terms of efficiency. We also see a significant reduction in the potential for error or for data loss or for data manipulation. So what we're seeing is that key carbon market stakeholders, particularly such as registries, are turning to digital processes. And what this is allowing to happen is an interconnection and an interoperability between all of the stakeholders. So for the full cycle of project development, from the finance of the project to the implementation of the project to the off-taking of the carbon credits, that can now all, what is emerging is that will all be interconnected and interoperable. We're moving into a stage where carbon credits can become tokenized assets. So what that means is that they carry all the attributes, the tokens carry all of the important informational attributes of the carbon credit, but it's highly fungible. It's extremely mobile in terms of trading and exchange and retirement. We're also seeing distributed ledgers that allow for, again, that immutability and traceability. And we're seeing smart contracts that can automate transactions on the fulfillment of certain terms or conditions. And what that can do is really speed up carbon credit transactions, carbon market transactions. We're also seeing registries starting to move towards real-time issuance. For those who are not familiar with carbon market processes, the way that the issuance of carbon credits works now is that a project runs for a period of time. At the end of that period, say 12 months or 18 months, all of the relevant data is gathered manually in PDFs and Excel spreadsheets and so on, and then a verification takes place. So what this means is that from the point of investment into a project up until realizing some of the first benefits of the carbon credits can be a period of at least 18 months, but often longer because of this batch style of verification. What we're seeing now with digitization is that registries are now moving towards what we call real-time issuance. And what this means is that for project and developers and project investors, they can then liquidate their carbon assets at the time that it best suits their needs. What this also means is that project developers can monitor their projects in real time so that if there are performance or other issues, they can be aware of those and address those at the time, rather than waiting for an 18-month period. So these all combine to create massive increases in efficiency and liquidity. And underlying all of this is what I referred to at the outset, which is the requirement to attract capital into these projects. And it's really important for countries like Nigeria, where access to capital is challenging. Carbon finance represents a really valuable opportunity to attract foreign direct investment. But in order to do that, it's important that the systems are set up correctly from the outset. Next slide, please. So it's really, really important, both for project developers, for regulators, and for national entities to establish a strong, robust, and effective digital infrastructure right from the outset. So I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, I talked about the use of our View platform for monitoring letters of authorization under Article 6. This is a way for national entities to immediately establish a standard for rigor and transparency and traceability for projects that will be taking place in their country. Really important for project developers to establish digital measurement, reporting, and verification from the outset. So for all of the processes that are involved in a project, to get those onto platform from the outset, so that from the beginning of the project, there is always that strong evidentiary trail demonstrating that actions or requirements of the methodologies are being met. And it's important to do that at the outset for a number of reasons. Not only does it mitigate risk for investors and buyers and other stakeholders, but it ensures that there's no requirement to go back and retroactively make a change, which can be really difficult, challenging, and costly. Changing course in midstream is really hard. So we always advise people to set up the data monitoring plan and the data monitoring requirements at the outset of the project. So I think that's about it. The final point that we would make in terms of getting it right from the outset is to engage with your carbon market partner from the outset. This has to do not just with establishing the best digital measurement, reporting, and verification structure, but it's also to ensure that you're meeting all the requirements of the methodology as well, so that you will be able to maximize the number of carbon credits, ensure that you're eligible, and to provide any support required for your project investors and potential off-takers. So that's it. Thank you very much for your attention, and thanks again to GACN for putting on this event. Looking forward to some interesting conversation.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you. If you've just joined us, Stephen is the Director of Corporate Development at CarbonAi. I'm speaking there to us around a critical theme of enabling high integrity methane reductions through carbon finance. Stephen, please turn off your microphone, but leave your video on as you are on the panel. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please give Stephen that virtual round of applause we've been doing with our very first speakers? Thank you. Now to our panelists, I move on. As I invite you, kindly just turn on your video, leave your microphone muted until the moderator takes center stage. And once the moderator calls on you to speak, you can unmute your mic and then speak. But for now, just turn on your videos and wait until I get to the moderator. Onwards to our very first panelist. He is the head of sustainability at NNPC Limited, Chinedu Igwe. Good afternoon. Please confirm you can hear me.
Good afternoon. I can hear you. But
Beautiful.
permit me to say that I'm standing in for Mr. Chinedu, who is attending to another essential official responsibility. Thank you.
Your name is?
Engineer Philimon Yillang.
Engineer Philimon.
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay, joining Philimon on the panel, it's the co-lead hydrogen task force of GIZ Nigeria, Obeten Bassey. Obeten, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to be here.
All right, leave your video on and keep your mic off. Onwards from Obeten, we move on to the program manager for EU, Godfrey Ogbemudia. Good afternoon, Godfrey.
Good afternoon.
Beautiful. All right, Stephen is already here. You know, you've just listened to him. I'll just move on from Stephen to our moderator for the panel, Senior Analyst Sustainable Energy, GACN. We welcome Maryam Saleh. Maryam, the floor is yours. Before
Hello,
Maryam
good
comes on to
afternoon. Can you
speak,
confirm?
yes, I can confirm. Just give me a second, Maryam, please. Give me a second. Participants who are listening to me now, if you need to interact with our panelists, please locate the Q&A box and leave your questions there. Emmanuel and the moderator will look at it and pass it on. The moderator will look at it and pass it on to the appropriate panelists. But for now, I'll pass it back to you, Maryam. Please take it away.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome once again to our panel on unlocking carbon finance and methane abatement, practical pathways for Nigeria's gas sector. Thank you to the MC again for the wonderful introductions of our panelists. Before we begin, I'd like to take a cue from the keynote address by the ED, Your Energy, and from the presentation by Stephen, CarbonAi. Both highlighted something very important and critical, the need to turn what we often see as waste into real prosperity and opportunity. So the big question before us today is simple. How do we translate these opportunities into tangible results for Nigeria's gas sector? So I'll jump right in. Let me begin with our National Oil Corporation. As the biggest asset holder in the sector and with significant participation in JVs and JOAs, you sit right at the center of this conversation. My first question is to Engineer Philimon. How is NNPC positioning itself to use carbon finance instruments to fund methane abatement in upstream and midstream operations?
Thank you again, Maryam. Like I said earlier, my name is Engineer Philimon Yillang, standing in for the head sustainability. So to go straight to your question, how is NNPC positioning itself to leverage on carbon financing so that we can be able to reduce our carbon footprint, cutting across our entire value chain? I sincerely believe NNPC has done a lot in that aspect. And for NNPC, it's a mix of technology and innovation. It's a mix of finance, governance, and strategy. I'd like to add here before I say exactly what we have been doing. Just like the ED, NNPC New Energy had said, for us in NNPC, we have adopted gas as our bridge or transition fuel that extends to Nigeria in itself. And I'm taking a toll from what he said is that is our destination fuel, and I agree completely with him. But for us to demonstrate that we can be able to leverage and attract carbon finance, there is a need to show that we are exemplifying measurement, monitoring, reporting, verification, and validation. The same thing that Mr. Stevens said during his presentation. So for us in NNPC, for us to be able to demonstrate that we are measuring, we are monitoring, we are reporting, and as well as validating, we have been able to put up a very robust governance structure that speaks from the board down to the shop floor. What that means is that there is a total buy-in from the top management of NNPC. I'd like you to know that in the board of NNPC, we have a board sustainability committee. Now, in order to address the issue of these 5 core areas that I talk about, that will be able to ensure that you are auditing, you have proof that you are demonstrating that you are reducing your carbon. We have been able to institute unit within our sustainability department. First and foremost, we have the strategy, standard, and policy department that handles the development of policy, identification of standard for us in NNPC, which is the unit I head. And we have been able to design several policies ranging from sustainable procurement, DEI, and as well as a biodiversity policy. Then also we equally have a unit called target setting, reporting, and monitoring. That unit is to handle the aspect of monitoring that I spoke about, and as well as to demonstrate or report what we are doing, because it's very important to disclose your progress, where you are, and how you have been able to do that. Then the next unit is the carbon control unit that is saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that we reduce our carbon footprint. But very key to those units is our sustainability partnership and alliance. I see potential partnership here with CarbonAi. you will agree with me, for us, we have identified one key challenge, which is the finance, and that's what we're talking about here. We have identified capacity and as well as technology. So partnership and alliance is very key for us to be able to attract climate finance. So aside the governance structure that we've put in place, and these are some of the things our investors, our financiers are asking about, the next thing we're able to put in place to ensure that we attract carbon finance is to develop our strategy. We're able to develop a sustainability strategy that cut across 4 key impact areas. That is our purpose as a company, and also our people to ensure social equity, the planet to ensure that our business that we do leaves the environment in a more responsible manner, and our perception as well. We are not only going to be doing that, but we want to ensure that we are being seen to be doing that. So we have a strategy that has been developed. Then aside that, we have been able to identify our stakeholders. We have been able to do what we call materiality assessment, where the and we've developed our stakeholders engagement matrix, how we'll be able to manage our stakeholders, both internal and external. Then also we've been able to put across our ESG risk mitigation plan. By ESG risk mitigation plans, we have been able to identify our sustainability related risks and opportunity, as well as our climate related risks and opportunity that will be integrated into our overarching enterprise risk management. I'd like to equally put out to you here that for us to be transparent and accountable, we have identified one standard, which is GRI for our reporting, and as well as our ISSB, IFRS 1 and 2 reporting standard. Now, these are several things that we have put in place to position us as leaders in this industry, that we can be able to leverage carbon financing to be able to reduce our carbon emission. I would like to, before I stop my conversation, in the aspect of measurement, which is handled by our strategy department, we are right now developing our GHG inventory, and so far we're through with our asset inventarization. And so far we are also through with the draft decarbonization strategy. And finally, in this journey, like I said earlier, very important, that is the partnership and alliance, we have identified several businesses in NNPC that having different responsibilities. For us in NNPC, this conversation is not new, but today we're doing it in a more concerted and harmonized fashion. I tell you, just like the ED NNEL has said, NNEL are positioned to be the service provider to ensuring that whatever you need to reduce your carbon footprint, reduce your methane emission, they will handle it. We have the NNPC Foundation handling the aspect of CSR. We have our HSC handling emission monitoring and equally reporting. Then sustainability, providing oversight and tracking and acting as a control tower that will help to identify low carbon project emission. So essentially, this is what NNPC has put in place to position itself and to be able to leverage on carbon financing to deliver on methane reduction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Philimon. That's a great note. You've spoken about measurements and you've spoken about capture programs. It's a great note to transition onto our next speaker, to Mr. Godfrey. We've heard how operators are approaching this from the inside. Let's now look at the policy and regulatory angle and what partners like EU are doing. With the EU methane regulation coming into full force, how will Nigerian LNG and gas pipeline exporters be impacted? This question is to Mr. Godfrey.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. We certainly know that there will be consequences in the sense that Europe is one of the destinations that Nigeria LNG usually targets. About 50% of what is produced end up within the European Union. And we can also say that it's about 5% in terms of consumption that the Nigerian government, the Nigerian LNG is contributing to the European market. With the EU methane regulation, it means LNG importers into Europe will have to be able to meet up with regulations as stated, that has been, as they stated in the regulation that have been drafted. The speaker from CarbonAi mentioned not quite long that from 2028, importers of coal, of gas, and oil into Europe will have to show the methane intensity that is associated with their production. And even before then, as early as 2027 from January, you are meant to be able to show that within your operation, it met the OGMP 2.0 MRV status. So that's already will be a challenge if we are not able to meet that, meaning that in terms of competitiveness, that is already a huge risk. But on the other side, it's also an opportunity for LNG importers to also raise up the bar in terms of their commitment to addressing methane emissions within their production. And we know definitely that comes, with a cost in terms of having to improve the operations around what they do, investment into technologies that will help them drive down the emissions associated with the production. But why it has its own negatives in terms of the fact that competitiveness on the platform of competitiveness, you may have to be able to meet that standard and, becoming much more the cost associated with that, will certainly increase. But on the side of net zero and also being able to compete with every other importers into Europe, you must have also improved by ensuring that the standard is also met from your side. So I will look at it from both sides. Yes, impact negative, but there's also positive when we're able to improve on our operations and become much more competitive with other importers into Europe.
Thank you, sir. So just a quick follow-up on that. So beyond compliance, right, what technical support is the EU prepared to provide?
Good question. So, but at the moment here in Nigeria, we have a project that UNEP, the United Nations Environment Program, is implementing for us, and it is called the Nigerian Methane Emission Reduction Program. Basically, that project, although it's targeting three sectors: the oil and gas sector, the waste sector, and the agricultural sector. Because we found out that these three sectors are where you have high methane emission in terms of sectors across the country where the methane emission is very high. Oil and gas, for sure, it's number one. So we have decided to look at these three sectors. The objective of the project is to establish a baseline emission profile first for the whole country, and then look at it sectorally: oil and gas, the waste, and the agricultural sector. This, for sure, will feed into the MRV framework that is in the country. If you don't have the right baseline on top of which you can, measure, report, and verify, we are still going to. It boils down to a wasted effort at the end of the day, and so that's what UNEP is helping us to do, working with key stakeholders in Nigeria across the sector. But at the moment, we have really kickstarted our work with stakeholders within the oil and gas sector, public sector, mainly with the two regulators, upstream, midstream, and downstream, NNPC at the moment, trying to see how we can build the capacity on how to get this done. In September next month, 16th to 17th, they will be in Paris for another round of training. The first one was held last year, October, and we're having a second set again in Paris, 16th to 17th. So we're hoping that by the time we are done with this, then, coupled with several capacity building that will accompany this baseline study we are doing, conducting across these three sectors, we should be at a position where we have data, we have the capacity to be able to make informed choices and address the challenges of methane within our operations in the country. Of course, that now leads into investment, which CarbonAi mentioned in their presentation. Over.
Thank you very much for that. I, for one, am looking forward to seeing more of this MRV. So like having an established baseline for MRV, that's where we need to be, where conversations we're definitely supposed to be having. So now we've seen the local perspective and how the global standards are shaping our path. Let's bring it back home. GIZ has been very active in piloting solutions in Nigeria and across Africa. My next question is to Bassey. From GIZ's work across Africa, what proven models could be adapted for Nigeria's gas sector?
Thank you very much, Miriam. I don't know if you can hear me. Okay, so I can then just go ahead. Yeah, so from the GIZ perspective, like you rightly said, GIZ has spread across different countries on the continent, and we have been in Nigeria for a while. Personally, I work with the German Nigerian Hydrogen Office. Just for a background, we also look into decarbonization, and we have offices also in different countries within the continent. From a GIZ perspective across other countries where we have done, in East Africa, for example, in Kenya, Ethiopia, Uganda, we've had a program like Climate Smart Livestock System. It's focused on agriculture, methane abatement in the agri sector. When Godfrey made mention of the intervention from the EU, he also highlighted the challenge with methane in the agricultural sector as well. So for us in GIZ, there's also we have example in East Africa where we are harnessing abatement in agriculture. This project is financed together with the World Bank, and we have like 10,000 farmers within the scheme, and it's also targeted at very rural community, and the LPG is directed towards providing rural electricity. So it's a project where it's an intervention where this serves the local community and also provides support for very rural off-grid communities. We have other examples like in Botswana, we have some in Namibia, where we also have cases for blended financing and also trying to do risk investment in methane-related oil and gas operations in the southern end of Africa. That has been a little bit key focus in GIZ. GIZ is big on sustainability. We are big on promoting sustainable environment for our operations, and we are also very, very focused on the people, looking at people-oriented projects that directly impact communities, whereby you tie interventions to economic impact. So most of these projects are directly implemented in communities where you solve a problem by directly impacting the lives within this community. So for us in East Africa, this gas is captured and for productive use. So we are big on productive use, and these examples we have had across Africa. For Nigeria, I think the lessons for Nigeria would be to embed methane abatement within its economic development goal. It's looking at methane abatement also from the point of economic sustainability for the people, not just as a climate topic. We have to also not treat it as an isolated climate obligation. It has to be looked at critically as also an economic ambition, the projects and the objectives and the plans and programs have to be people-oriented, have to be people-tied. They have to be tied to people, because these are the experiences from us across other countries. We have seen that methane abatement programs that have an economic-oriented phase have a much more sustainable outlook and also have a better economic predisposition to the people. So for us, that is the experience we are taking from other countries, and we hope to implement this back home here in Nigeria in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you, Bassey. Just to follow on to that, are there any ongoing or planned GIZ Nigeria programs specifically targeting methane abatement that industry players can plug into?
Yes, definitely. Yes, definitely. Thank you. So we are also involved in the Nigerian Methane Emission Reduction Project. GIZ is also working together with the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission and also the Ministry of Petroleum, Department of Gas, to strengthen data system monitoring capacity and regulatory incentive for methane reduction. That is where we are also focused on, and we are also supporting alignment with Climate Change Act of 2021, so which sets out carbon budgeting pathways and all of the carbon market framework as well, which we collaborate to work on leak detection, repair training, flare gas utilization pilots, and carbon market readiness generally. This is a broader scope for which we are also doing locally. And we have one project which we recently started. It's called Climate Talks, but it's also heavy on methane reduction and methane abatement. We're working with the Nigerian Midstream Petroleum Regulatory Agency, NNPCL, and the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, that's the NUPRC, as well as GACN and the Ministry of Petroleum. So this program is also targeted at looking at flare sites and what we can do with flare reduction in terms of flare to value. It's looking at how we can transform this flare to value. So that project is starting recently, and when the target of the project is to look at how we can convert some of this flare site, reduce emissions in the upstream operations, and also create value from this site. Beyond reducing reduction, we want to create value, we want to strengthen capacity for sector players in the upstream operation, as well as the midstream and downstream. We are also looking at regulatory and data strengthening for the system. We are working together with NUPRC on that side to strengthen data and also look at pilot projects and pilot interventions that can also solve this challenge for us. Yes, so for GIZ Nigeria, we are planning this. We have started conversations with local partners on this already locally. Aside what we are doing with the Nigerian Methane Emission Reduction Project, we are also having these climate talks with selected stakeholders in the up and midstream, as well as the downstream operations. And we are collectively working to see what we can do to support Nigeria meet its climate goal. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bassey. It is certainly interesting to see the conversation also moving from just carbon reduction to generally methane abatement, because it has always been, CO2, but now that we're looking at it in a bigger picture, so that's really good. So we've now heard about government frameworks and programs, but the role of partners, private technology, and market enablers is just as important. CarbonAi is already, as you've heard, helping countries to unlock pricing opportunities. My next question is to Stephen. From your perspective, what are the key data gaps in Nigeria's gas sector that hold us back from credit issuance, and how can CarbonAi help bridge these gaps?
Yeah, thanks, Maryam. Thanks for that question, and thank you to the two previous panelists for their very insightful and interesting comments. In terms of the key data gaps that hinder credit issuance, I would say, first of all, it's definitely not a Nigeria-specific problem, but really it's related to methane in general, methane can be very, very challenging to quantify, just due to the nature of it. It's particularly within oil and gas operations, it's almost ubiquitous. And within oil and gas operations, there are a lot of small devices and a lot of points within oil and gas operations where leaks may take place either through operational procedures or through equipment failure or aging equipment and so on. So there's a lot of very small leaks, all of which add up. They can be widely dispersed, and they can be unknown. So that's one of the challenges. In terms of more point sources of methane emissions, particularly thinking about flare gas, quantification actually is not that challenging. It's just really a matter of putting a flow meter on and connecting via an API or what have you. But up until recently, and probably the current practice is still to be using in the instances where there is quantification taking place. There is conventional processes such as spreadsheets and so on, manual capture and entry of data, which is prone to error, lost data, manipulation, and so on. So these are, I think, a lot of the reasons why we really make a push towards digitizing the quantification and establishing really strong evidentiary trails. So in terms of bridging those, I think there are a couple of issues, and certainly within Nigeria there has been a significant push over the last few years towards quantifying methane emissions. We look at the NUPRC decarbonization framework and its objectives for robust digital monitoring systems. And as I mentioned in my presentation, this is really what we developed our software platform to do, was to allow for really strong evidentiary trails where they're transparent, traceable, and immutable. And the idea is, to really surface what the actual methane emissions are, and to understand where they are and what the activities are around them. And digitization allows us to do this. So again, we developed our smartphone app to operate at the device level. So specifically with programs like leak detection and repair, pneumatic device replacement, and so on. We can also use our field tool to certify or verify actual quantification, such as through OGI cameras and flare cameras, and then uploading that data in an automated way up to a platform such as our DMRV platform, where the data can be stored. So it, again, in an immutable fashion, so nobody can remove the data. And nobody can change or alter the data, but also transparent, so that any authorized third party, such as a regulator, can view that data, and then having it be traceable all the way back to the source. So again, I think the main thing around it is having an awareness of the issues, and secondly, providing tools such as our DMRV tools, but also putting in place regulations and requirements for monitoring. So in my estimation, the Nigeria regulators are getting to that point. They're putting frameworks in place, and it's really just a matter of then implementing those frameworks using the right tools.
Right. Thank you so much for that. Absolutely. Having policies and regulations to govern how we progress is definitely key. So thank you for that. I think that now that we've gone round the table, or let me cycle back with just a few sets of reflection to tie together what we've spoken about of operations and of global alignment and donor programs, market mechanisms. My first follow-up question is to Engineer Philimon. Beyond compliance, right? How is methane reduction being built into your business model to attract this green finance, green capital we'll be talking about, and also to improve market access?
Okay, thank you again, Maryam. For us in NNPC, I would like to put it out that we are not motivated by the fact that we just want to avoid risk. Neither are we having the desire to just be doing this sustainability for competition, nor are we attracted to the incentives that are available in the market. But for us, we are inspired by a deep sense of purpose and possibility. And having said that, what that means is that there is a mindset shift. We have been able to identify the fact that sustainability principles and best practices are cost optimization strategy. For instance, one of such cost leadership strategy is in the aspect of elimination of waste, leak detection, avoidance of leakages from fugitive, and as well as venting, and as well as flaring as well. So if you look at it with that mindset, you will know that we're not saying it from just abiding by the laws, but we're approaching it from the fact that we have noticed that if we can gather, capture, and monetize this waste, we can convert it to our wealth, which is a semblance of the theme that we have for this webinar today, that speaks to from emissions to innovation. So for us in NNPC, how we have ensured that this strategy is being integrated into our business model. If you look at NNPC, the DNA of NNPC, ranging from our mission, vision, our core value, all speaks to the energy transition and as well as to the sustainability desire. For us, our team or our tagline is energy for today and energy for tomorrow. For us to remain a global company of choice, what that means is that we must continually do our business in a manner that we will be responsible and attract investment. So I would like to say here, just what I told you earlier, we have developed strategy, measures, metrics, and KPIs that are being communicated to all our businesses to ensure that we reduce our carbon footprint and to equally ensure that we put in a business, which is the NNPC New Energy Company, to be saddled with the responsibility to ensure that we meet up with that requirement. So for us in NNPC, we've gone beyond compliance. We are hopeful that going forward, just the way our HSC has matured and it has become a way of life, that is how the management of these emissions and the reduction of methane will be. So that's what I will say to that question. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that response. That's a great note to transition. Let me bring in Mr. Godfrey, EU. What opportunities do you see for EU-Nigeria Methane Partnership Facility? And how can Nigeria align its abatement programs with CBAM to protect competitiveness of its exports?
To be very frank, I really don't see that opportunity at the moment, and also the fact that CBAM hasn't at the moment. It's not designed to capture the oil and gas sector. So for the moment, there is nothing on the table. We're not looking at that at the moment, so I cannot comment on that. I just have to leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Hopefully we'll have another panel where we get another perspective on that, hopefully soon. So we'll see how that goes. All right. My next question is to GIZ. Bassey, how do you see collaboration between government and industry driving wider use of tools like leak detection you mentioned earlier, leak detection drones and gas flare recovery, or even small-scale LNG?
Thank you, Maryam. Yeah, so I'll just draw a little bit from the project I mentioned earlier, decarbonizing Nigeria's oil and gas sector. That's the flare reduction project I mentioned. For us to achieve projects like this and get to the objectives which have been aligned in the concept, then we must encourage public-private partnership. It's absolutely critical. It's if we want to scale solutions, that's very key. If we are looking at scaling solutions, then we have to encourage PPP because the government on one side or the public sector on one side has limited capacity and is majorly concerned with regulatory functions and has limited capacity to invest in projects and also when we're talking about scaling. And then so the best the government can do is to provide the enabling environment, right? To set regulatory framework in place, set things in place, and make sure that we have the necessary instrument to make sure that the system runs itself, things like carbon credit and also streamline licensing as well, to also encourage more stakeholders to invest in the sector. On the other side, the private sector brings the innovation and the investment. And without the innovation and the investment, then when you're talking about things like leak detection, modular flare gas recovery system, or you're looking at mini LNG for smaller volumes, then it's basically what we are looking towards the private sector to intervene. So yes, without having these two people sit together, it's difficult for us to build projects that are even bankable, right? Interventions that are even bankable. It needs the collaboration of both sides. And then this also brings in the question of sustainability, because if we do not enhance public-private partnership in the methane abatement sector or the methane abatement topic, then we would only be doing interventions for the noun. We would have to keep repeating these interventions over and over and over because they are not embedded in the system, and the way it is being done it's not sustainable. So yes, if we have to get the real economic value from our oil and gas assets, then we have to critically look at encouraging partnerships on this topic, and then also looking at building sustainable models that government after government and time after time can work. And for us at GIZ, at the German Nigerian Hydrogen Office, we are also supporting this topic, but we look at it more from the climate perspective, strengthening institution. We are a dialogue program, so we encourage framework development. For example, at some point we had also discussed flare to hydrogen usage to look at if we can look at new technology introduction in the space to also harness this potential that we have identified in the country. So yes, public-private partnership is very key, but we have to be able to define it within as a framework where each of the stakeholders is very clear as to what they are doing. What is GACN doing in this? What is NUPRC doing in this? What is NNPC doing in this? Is NNPC doing the same thing as GACN? Certainly not. Is NMDPRA doing the same thing as the Ministry of Petroleum? Certainly not. Then what is OWANDO, for example, doing in this? So we have to sit down and then have a program that clearly defines the role of each stakeholders, put timelines to this, and probably cost-based interventions as well. And that for us is the only sustainable way we can deal with this long term. Thank you.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with what you've said. I'm looking at time, so finally to CarbonAi. We're seeing a lot of shift, right, to AI. So what role is AI playing in building verifiable credits and strengthening market confidence?
Yeah, thank you, Mary. Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and I think that what I would say is at this point in time, applications of AI are little bit limited, but certainly there is a lot of potential. We have a number of AI use cases on our developmental roadmap. For instance, at this point in time, it's a little bit preliminary because to be really effective, AI requires large pools of data to start, pulling on predictive models and so on. There are some instances where, like the large language learning models, such as ChatGPT and so on, can be used to create efficiencies in terms of developing project-related documents and so on, and potentially applying methodologies for specific projects based on information or experience that can be drawn from other project types. But we think the really interesting applications kind of lie in the future as we start getting much more project data. And this ties again back to, that notion of carbon markets and carbon projects adopting digital practices from the outset. And one of the things that this is going to do in the long run is create really significant pools of data that will allow us to apply some of the really interesting potentials for artificial intelligence, particularly we think in terms of predictives. So if the question is around things like validation and verification, we think that as the carbon market ecosystem and processes become digitized, I referred earlier to transitioning more towards real-time issuance. And what that can do is allow us to kind of flip the current practice on its head a little bit, so that rather than verifying project data at the end of 18 months or so of operation, what you can do is establish at the outset of the project that the project will meet the requirements of the methodology, have it running on a platform that allows continual data assessment, and then trigger alerts for verification only when expected project performance deviates from those. Only when project performance deviates from the expectations that are set up at the outset and validated as the expected performance. So this is kind of where, as we get more data, predictives will allow us to more accurately, or should allow us to more accurately project what the likely emission reductions are going to be from a particular project type in a particular region, combining with other parameters in that consideration. And what that can do is really establish really strong modeling in terms of what the output is going to be in terms of carbon credits. And that can do a lot to address investor risk and attract capital into projects. It could also facilitate, again, through that integrated, digitized ecosystem. It could facilitate the flow of capital into projects that meet certain parameters that can be established by predictive modeling that artificial intelligence can facilitate. In terms of actual project implementation and so on, we think that there are opportunities to use AI to get an understanding of the performance of certain devices or equipment within projects, so that you can predict when, for instance, a piece of equipment is likely to fail. And then if you can address that early against what the manufacturer's requirements could be, that could create opportunities for generating carbon credits for early action on leak detection and repair and so on. So I think those are some of the things that we think about right now. I think that as we go forward and AI develops and we get a better understanding of some of the project data and opportunities it presents to identify different patterns of activities and so on, we're probably likely to see applications that we're not really capable of thinking of at the moment. But it's a really interesting question.
Right, thank you very much for that. We're completely out of time, and we've also covered a lot of ground. So I'd like to bring you back each to just maybe briefly, 10 seconds, say something to close, immediate next steps, right? And also low-hanging fruits. Just 10 seconds. I'll start with Steven.
Yeah, I think low-hanging fruit is, addressing methane emissions in oil and gas. And, if there is a takeaway, I would say that digitization really offers Nigeria regulators and producers an opportunity to leapfrog analog processes and move straight into digitization. And that gives the country and companies operating within the country the opportunity to plug into global digitized ecosystems that can really facilitate rapid flows of capital into projects within the country.
Thank you very much. Can we have Engineer Philimon next, please?
I can hear you.
For closing remarks, immediate next steps, low-hanging fruit.
Okay. For us in NNPC, I'd like to talk from that perspective. Our low-hanging fruit so far is to ensure that we have a GHG inventory, ensuring that we have a baseline, because from the baseline, you can be able to commit to a particular absolute amount that this is what you will be reducing as your carbon footprint. Then also, like I said, is for us to ensure that we close out the draft decarbonization strategy that we have developed. Right now, we're in the process of review and evaluation. Hopefully, we'll send it to the senior management team as well as the board to append their signatures. We have seen what we need to do. We know how much we need to attract for our business, but we're changing the narrative to ensure that it's attractive to our business leaders so that we will be able to deliver on those mandates. So our low-hanging fruit, like I said, is the closeout of the GHG baseline and endorsement of the decarbonization strategy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we have Mr. Godfrey?
Thank you. So from my side, I would say, since we pretty know that the EU methane emission regulation has been designed around the OGMP 2.0. We're also aware that NNPCL is now part of the OGMP 2.0 here in the country. It would be good to encourage every other key players to be part of that, because that's where the MROV framework that most likely is going to be used in judging whatever comes into Europe. So we already have a key player like NNPCL already there. Every other person should be encouraged to be part of that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And finally, can we have Bassey?
Okay, thank you very much, Maryam. In 2 seconds, like you said, this has been also very educating for me, seeing the interventions from other stakeholders, and the commitment is encouraging, I must confess. It shows that as a country, we are also committed to solving this. So for me, I think Nigeria would also have to concentrate on building capacity within its regulatory institutions. If we have the right capacity and we have the right systems within the regulatory institutions, I think then the topic of methane abatement would greatly be addressed, because there is also that capacity gap within certain institutions. There is also capacity gap both on the public and the private end. And the low-hanging fruit for us would be to strengthen dialogue on the public side, strengthen capacity on the private side, and see how we can put all these beautiful programs from the UNDP, financed by the EU and the rest, into one basket. And then, because all of this portfolio would have to be implemented by the public sector. So we have to critically also take capacity strengthening for the public sector as a critical topic, so that we can achieve our target within a very short period. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. What an engaging conversation. I'll hand over. I can see Richmond waiting. So thank you very much to all our panelists for your insights and for a very, very interesting and engaging conversation. Please join me in virtually appreciating our panelists once again, and we definitely look forward to turning these conversations into action. Thank you. Over to you, Richmond.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much, Maryam. You know, Bassey ended there by saying you gave him 2 seconds. I've not seen a longer 2 seconds than that one today, but it's all right. It's as you said, it's been an engaging conversation, and I believe that everyone on the call is walking away from the call with a thing or two learned around unlocking carbon finance and methane abatement. Okay, let's move on swiftly now to the Principal Counsel of GACN for his summary and takeaways and next steps before we anchor at the closing remarks. I pass it to you now, Kufre Obong Otu Medo. Confirm you can hear me.
Good afternoon, Richmond. I can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent.
And good afternoon.
Please take it away.
Thank you. And good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for the time, taking the time to join in these quite frankly invigorating conversations from emissions to innovations. So before I round off on the summary, takeaways, and next steps, I want to address the questions that we have in the Q&A box. Just very, very briefly, because we have a lot of people who are, of course, quite interested in what has been spoken about, but we haven't got a chance to address them. So just if you give me a moment. So the first question, this was from Maryam. How do you move from theory to practice in making our carbon data truly trustworthy? I think maybe, Stephen, you could answer this briefly for us.
Yeah, sure. I think that's really the making data transparent and trustworthy is really, what we try to do. So again, I think it's establishing robust digital practices so that from the point of the greenhouse gas reduction to the generation and issuance of a carbon credit outcome, there is a transparent, immutable, and traceable data trail. So I think the one thing I would say, the first step in that is to move out of manual processes where there's human intervention, which creates the opportunity for error. We all have fat fingers at points in time. It creates the opportunity for lost data, misunderstood data, misinterpreted data, and manipulated data. So moving from manual processes into digitized and automated processes. So removing the human intervention from the outset and doing it for the entire chain of data. And so from the device all the way to the outcome, but also as much as possible through the full life cycle of the project.
Okay, thank you so much, Stephen. So quickly, we have a question from Dr. Gaji. As an operator of a large gas turbine power plant, can we earn carbon credits? What kind of returns can one expect for 100 megawatts power generation using gas? And this question is specific to CarbonAi, as he has also indicated. So Stephen, welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Kufre. Nice to see you again, by the way. Yeah, so that's a good question. Whenever somebody asks the question of whether the project is eligible and what the volume of credits would be, the answer, the definitive answer we provide is usually it depends. There are a lot of variables that go into assessing both eligibility of a project for carbon credits and also volume. So what I would suggest is that the person who posted the question get in touch with me and we can talk about some details and give a more fulsome and informed response.
All right, thank you again. So the next is also from Dr. Gaji too, but this time is for Mr. Daniel Obiano. So NNPC in the presentation stated that it has a target of developing solar solutions to the tune of 2,500 megawatts by 2030. Who are the expected users of this energy? Who will undertake the M&E of this project? Or would it be another interesting target that will be kicked further down the road as we get to 2030? So where are we on this lofty program now? So please, Edie, go ahead.
Confirm you can see me and hear me.
I can hear you, but it's a bit dark from my end, perhaps lighting.
Okay, no, I think I'm back in the office, so yeah. Okay, no, so that's a very valid question, and indeed, like I said, we're in the beginning of the conceptualization of that project. If you look at the gap to potential in Nigerian electricity market, you know that Nigeria should be a 60,000 megawatts country. So 2,500 is not just what you call them, a pie in the sky. It's actually a real target that has a real need. And if you compare the levelized cost of energy with thermal and solar, you find out that that actually is the potential. So for us, we're excited to be on that journey. Who will be the off-takers? Maryam started this program by talking about the deficit. Over 60, 70, depending on where you're looking at, don't have lights. So think about the rural electrification programs. So we're at the early stage of business development, and what we're saying is that, again, we're going far, so we need partners, and we are on the market to also solicit for partners, and we will see as we move along on this that this is actualized. So thank you. We have our eyes on the ball. Thanks.
Thank you very much, sir. Perhaps you can answer the next question too. How can we strike the balance between monetizing Nigeria's gas resources today with the decade of gas in view and investing in long-term low-carbon solutions?
So again, I'll repeat what I said in the beginning. Gas as a destination fuel, like you can see, 2050 is a rainbow. So gas as a destination fuel is there. However, like you said, it's always striking that balance between export and domestic. And you can see with the example of LNG. Last data I saw with 2015, $90 billion that sort of project has generated. So it's going to always be a balance between what we export and what we develop. Nigeria is a gas country. So we know that we have the resources here. It's just balancing that development and ensuring that the energy security of the country is not compromised by the exports. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much. So the next question for Mr. Olubenga, I think Mr. Godfrey from the EU will be in the best position to answer this. So he asked, what happens when, for example, NLNG methane intensity is not at the OGMP 2.0 levels and there's no swing supply to Europe to fill the market, noting existing contracts in place?
So, from what I understand, is that why Europe will ensure, the regulation, every importer, meets that regulation. But however, I understand there is no ban, but there will be, penalties for having to import if maybe you are not able to meet the OGMP 2.0 level 5. I hope that's clear.
I hope so too for Mr. Olubenga. So I'll just, again, in the interest of time, I'll move on to the next. This is to CarbonAi from our very own Maryam. What's the single biggest challenge Nigeria faces in ensuring carbon methane data is credible and trusted internationally? I think this was touched on briefly, but please, Stephen, feel free to talk on this again.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question, Maryam. I think it goes back to kind of the recurrent theme for us. which is, again, just setting up best data management practices, which means digital, from the outset of a project, and ensuring that the data is immutable, transparent, and traceable. So it is really the same thing that we feel is the best practice in terms of establishing high integrity data, is ensuring it's transparent, traceable, and immutable. And so what that does is, regardless of who the stakeholder is or what the standards are, that data will meet the requirements of the highest standards. And part of the way that we demonstrate that is that our projects have been verified according to compliance methodologies, which are essentially the highest standards. So that's the equivalent of verifying to OGMP 2.0 level 5. So aspiring to those standards and ensuring that you're meeting the data requirements of the highest standards is the best way to do that. I hope that answers the question.
I hope so too. So again, I can only take one more question, and this would be from Wale Adegbile, again to CarbonAi. So please, Stephen, if you can take a minute or less to answer. He spoke about how wonderful it is, CarbonAi's take on tokenization of carbon credit. So he wants to know, how deep is CarbonAi willing to go in digital finance and blockchain space? Are ETFs and traditional blockchain-based exchanges in view? And if so, what digital currency projects are you willing to work with?
Right. So we have a strong commitment to a digital art ecosystem that includes tokenized assets in a ledgered environment. So we tend to stay away from the term blockchain because that has different connotations and different applications, but we have a very strong strategic relationship with a company named Future, which is providing the digital infrastructure for financing the transition economy. We're tied through that relationship with the Canton Network, which is, again, a network of financial institutions that are leveraging ledger technologies and smart contracts to facilitate both the tokenization of assets, rapid flow of finance with very, very high degrees of transparency and traceability. So in terms of our commitment, we believe that this is where carbon markets are going. We often refer to it internally as carbon 3.0. So carbon 1.0 was kind of up till about 2012. Carbon 2.0 was post-CDM world, 2012 to the last couple of years. And where we think carbon markets need to go to meet the scale that's required to meet the targets of the Paris Agreement and to attract the capital that is going to be required to invest in that, we believe that that can really only take place in a digital ecosystem that is kind of foundationally laid upon digital distributed ledgers and smart contracts. So I hope that answers that question. If there are subsequent questions, I'm happy to answer those via email or whatever.
All right. Thank you very much for that Q&A session. So I'm just going to straight on jump into the summary, key takeaways and action items. I'll be as brief as possible, just so that throughout the entirety of this presentation, the webinar that we've all spent time listening to, we're able to have a reflection of what was discussed. So the session, of course, began with the MD-GACN giving a strong emphasis on our energy future and the urgent need for transformation. The tone was visionary and action-oriented, speaking to sustainability and innovation. And then, of course, Mr. Richmond introduced the theme, which is building a world-class carbon registry, and highlighted the importance of strategic partnerships to reshape Nigeria's energy landscape. We then jumped right into the presentation, starting from the ED. Mr. Dana, who delivered quite an interesting, passionate presentation, focused on leadership in the clean energy transformation, gas as a destination and not an unwanted byproduct. He spoke about the carbon registry and advocating for creation of a robust carbon credit system to support our Africa's low energy carbon economy. He was also emphasized reduction to elimination. We spoke about a call to leadership, a green portfolio, and of course, Project Sunshine, which is a flagship solar initiative aiming for about 2,500 megawatts capacity by 2030. The action items can be split into both the public sector and the private sector, but primarily we spoke about policy advocacy, enabling infrastructure development, and of course, supporting public awareness campaigns, creating incentives for green investments, and establishing a transparent carbon registry, which was quite prevalent in the discussion. And of course, for the private sector, we have partner engagement, accelerating implementation, investing in MRV systems, and aligning all of this with the policy framework. Next, we had a presentation from Stephen Entwisle, who outlined how digitization is transforming carbon markets by making carbon credits, which are more liquid, transparent, through tokenization and smart contracts. The key takeaways from here where carbon credits are becoming digital assets with full traceability and mobility, blockchain and smart contracts. We spoke about real-time issuance. We also spoke about digital MRV systems, early setup of infrastructure, and importantly, leveraging our carbon finance to unlock foreign investment. The action items spoke about establishing a national digital infrastructure for the carbon market, developing and enforcing Article 6 compliance frameworks, enabling real-time issuance protocols through these registries that we've spoken to earlier, again, regulatory incentives and facilitating FDI through clear digital standards. And for the private sector as well, we have tokenization of carbon credits to enhance liquidity and traceability. He also touched on smart contracts, digitizing MRV processes, and of course, design investor-ready systems for robust data trails. I know that was something that everybody was had touched on a little bit. So next, we had, after the presentations were done, we concluded with a panel. So the title was Unlocking Carbon Finance and Methane Abatement. So practical pathways for Nigeria's gas sector. This was included Mr. Chinedu Igwe, Head Sustainability, who was represented by Mr. Philimon Yillang from NNPCL. We had Obeten Bassey, co-lead of Hydrogen Task Force GIZ Nigeria. We had Mr. Godfrey, Product Manager at the EU. And we had, of course, Stephen, who was from CarbonAi, which was moderated by Maryam Saleh, who heads the Sustainable Energy team at GACN. So, of course, the panel brought together a lot of key voices, started with policy alignment, donor programs, market mechanisms. This was the introduction that Maryam had given just to set the base, set the tone for the discussions that we had. We had talking about how NNPC is embedding sustainability into its business model with a focus on operational efficiency and investment readiness. Everybody spoke about methane abatement as well, and the next step speaking to finalize and endorse this decarbonization strategy. Mr. Godfrey gave an industry perspective with his speaking about the OGMP 2.0 as the standard. We got a lot of insights about the EU's methane emissions regulations, which are aligned, of course, with the OGMP. Participation is essential, like he emphasized, for credibility and compliance. And of course, he encouraged us regarding next steps, widespread adoption of OGMP 2.0. Then Mr. Bassey as well spoke about capacity being the low-hanging fruit. The key insights were about critical capacity gaps across the public and private sector, and the takeaways spoke to regulatory institutions needing stronger systems to manage the carbon finance programs. And of course, Mr. Stephen from CarbonAi spoke about digitization, how it unlocks capital, and how AI will transform carbon markets. But of course, we need the data first. So the takeaway from here, speaking about predictive modeling, smart verification, and automated monitoring. So in all that we spoke about during the panel, the action items, at least from the public sector part, folks spoke about finalizing methane monitoring frameworks and deploying these MRV models and tools, endorsing and implementing these national decarbonization strategies, and of course, building regulatory capacity and promoting OGMP 2.0 adoption across the sector. On the private sector side, we had completing GHG inventories, institutionalizing methane abatement through strategy and KPIs, which of course we spoke about how NNPC is doing that already, adopting digital MRV systems, systems, aligning once again with the OGMP 2.0, and importantly is engaging public-private dialogue to shape policy and investment pathways. So all in all, this was a very fruitful discussion, ranging from getting background, getting information from across the sector, both within and across Nigeria too, with the primary goal being unlocking Nigeria's low carbon potential. And each one of the speakers has spoken about their own experience from their own entity, their own experience from their own pathways leading towards unlocking Nigeria's low carbon potential, with a strong emphasis, like I said at the beginning, of being not just visionary on paper, but also being action oriented. So this hopefully gives a good summary of what those key action items were, those key takeaways were during the presentations, during the speeches, during the panel sessions, and of course, what the next steps and action items will be. So that'll be all from me. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Kufre Obongo Otumedo, Principal Counsel at GACN. Moving on from him, we go to the General Counsel and GM at GACN for her closing remarks. It's over to you, Tayo Rhodes Bible. Confirm you can hear me, Tayo?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Take it away, yes. I think you've muted yourself, Tayo. You've muted yourself.
Confirm you can hear me now?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you also very much for being part of this very important conversation. Thank you for being with us for the past 2 hours. Thank you, a big thank you to the speakers, to the presenters. Thank you for sharing your expertise, your perspective, and very practical insights as well. Many thanks to Maryam for your very poised and skillful moderation. Well done, Maryam. Thank you so much. And thank you to the Richmond Osuji. This is to deeply appreciate you, Richmond, for the skillful way you guided the discussions today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kufre, for the very, very apt overview that you gave us just now, just for us to remember the key takeaways. And would also be happy to share some of this with the attendees after this meeting as well. So we would again like to appreciate you. This for us is a step in a journey. So let's carry forward the ideas, the collaboration, the renewed sense of purpose as well. And this is one of many, hopefully, to come as well. And then please stay in touch with GACN. You can follow us on our social media platforms. Feel free to call us, send us email, info@gacn.com. Go on the website as well to keep yourself updated as to the key activities that we'll be having at GACN. The website is www.gacn.com. So thank you all so very much, and I wish you a pleasant rest of your day and week as well. Thank you. Thank you, Richmond, and over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Tayo Rosvivo, GCGACN. And on that note, we will be bringing this to a close. Now, just keep this in mind. At peak, we hit nearly 200 people joining from North America, Europe, and across Africa, having the conversation of emissions to innovations. We believe you're walking away here better informed and better equipped, and maybe with some idea that would help us get to our destination. As Tayo said, let the rest of your day be blessed beyond measure. Richmond Osuji is my name. Arrivederci. Bye-bye.